I, 18 female, found out a few months ago that my grandmother, who had passed a year ago, had left me and my sister Samantha, 20 female, a good amount of money to inherit. Once all the paperwork was taken care of, we were credited the amount into our bank accounts. My way of living is pretty frugal and I don't feel excited about buying expensive things, so I saved my money, the inherited money, and the extra cash I had been earning since I started working part-time when I turned 16. Samantha, on the other hand, has been a spender her whole life. She loves all things sparkly and definitely loves showing off her latest purchases at high-end, expensive parties. Not even 2 months went by and Samantha was already asking mom and dad for more money because she spent all of hers. 20 years old and still living with mom and dad with no plan of moving out anytime soon. Samantha's failed classes and partying were getting out of hand. Once I turned 18, I already had a couple of apartment options in front of me, and with the help of my dad, I moved pretty quickly. With my savings and the money inherited, I was able to fund myself and afford a pretty nice place in a perfect neighborhood, close to college. Samantha was super excited as she had planned on turning my old bedroom into a walk-in closet again, with no plan of leaving anytime soon. A month after I moved and was finally settled in, I invited all my friends and my family for a little housewarming, or apartment warming get-together. Everyone came and brought me amazing, useful gifts for my apartment. We all then had dinner, and it was time to call it a night. A week after the party, I started to smell something nasty in my entire apartment. I checked everywhere for maybe some dead rodent, rotten food, or anything that could explain the stench, but I couldn't figure it out. I called the apartment management and had them check for where the horrible smell was coming from. I have an extremely sensitive nose and have hyperosmia, which leads to severe migraines and shortness of breath. While the home inspectors did their work, I had to move back in with my parents and sleep on the couch as Samantha absolutely refused to share her room while my old room was being renovated. A few days went by and the root cause of the smell was discovered. Someone had put an open can of tuna in my vent, which had rotten and grown mold on it, hence the smell of rotting food ventilating my entire apartment. When I told my parents what the inspector had found, Samantha, who was sitting in the living room with us, burst out laughing. I looked towards Samantha immediately, confused at her reaction, and asked her why she was laughing so much. She could barely talk as she was laughing so hard, and somehow managed to tell me in between laughs that she was the one to put the open can of tuna in the vent. While everyone was busy having dinner at the party I had, I couldn't contain my anger and yelled at her, telling her I would be losing my security deposit, that it can take weeks for the odor to fully dissolve, which means I'll have to live on my parents' couch and take an extra long hour route to college, all because of her stupid prank. Apparently, since Samantha couldn't afford to buy me a gift, she decided to prank me, and though she knew the effects of my hyperosmia and how serious it can get, she didn't think it would be a big deal. She also added that I was lucky she forgot the other cans of tuna at home. Otherwise, she had planned on planting them in various spots around my apartment. I was furious to say the least and started to cry. Samantha was laughing hysterically and saying I was being a baby and to grow up. To which my mom angrily replied, "How about you grow up and find yourself an apartment?" Samantha saw the seriousness in mom's eyes and the look of disappointment on dad's face and knew she was in serious trouble. Once I had cooled down, I figured out how I wanted to teach Samantha a lesson and told her she had a choice. Since Samantha had admitted to putting the can of tuna in her vent in front of mom and dad as a prank, I had the upper hand in the situation. I told Samantha she had two choices. Either she pays to get the apartment cleaned by a professional, which the landlord is demanding I do, or I will sue her and she'll have to pay even more. Mom and dad backed me up. Samantha had no choice but to hire a professional cleaning crew and have my entire apartment thoroughly cleaned. It took several cleanings to ensure the mold didn't spread and to get rid of the smell entirely. Samantha also had to share her room with me until my apartment was ready. Now, weeks later, I move back in tomorrow to a brand new looking, sparkly clean apartment. Update. It has been weeks since the incident and Samantha is working 2 jobs to help pay for the cleaning crew she hired, and to start paying rent to mom and dad until she can afford to move out. She has no money to spend on designer bags, nor does she have the time to go out and party with her friends. She has also been warned by our parents that if her grades continue to drop, she won't have the privilege to eat the food my mom makes anymore, and will have to manage her meals herself, with her own money. So yeah, she paid for her actions big time. I applaud your parents for putting their foot down and supporting you on this, OP. What Samantha did was stupid and mean. The prank was mean, especially given the fact that you have hyperosmia and she knew the smell would have affected you and caused you a great deal of discomfort. I'm glad she's enjoying the consequences of her actions. She's older than you, but you're smarter than she is. Hopefully, she's learned her lessons and she will become a better person from now on. Story 2. My family has a tradition involving inheritance. Children receive sentimental items and a token cash amount, and grandchildren get a trust set up for their future. It works for our family and has for a few generations now. My brother blew his trust during the dot-com bubble, but his kids still have money for university and to get a start on life. It is a way to keep one generation from messing everything up. I'm doing my will and my daughter has approached me about her inheritance. She informed me that she was going to be child-free. I respect her decision. She thinks that the earth is overpopulated and does not want to contribute. I told her that her inheritance from myself would be some souvenirs from her childhood trips and about $5,000. She said that she knew that each of her brother's children was receiving substantially more than that in their trust. I said that she had received her trust from her grandmother and that was how it worked. She thinks it is unfair that her decision will lead to her getting less money. She refuses to understand that even if she had 10 children, she would not be getting any more money than what she's already getting. She called the family tradition ridiculous and patriarchal, which is odd because, as stated, her trust came from her grandmother. She thinks I'm an a-hole for not changing how things are done. I told her that our family has been doing this for a long time and it works. Am I the a-hole? Your daughter inherited it from her grandma. What she chose to do with that money is entirely up to her, but she knows that money is finite. Your funds will go to the generation after her. This way everyone thinks of the future, and if they don't, then their branch of the family's wealth ends. But it prevents a parent from squandering a grandchild's future to buy a new car or go on a vacation. I actually really like this strategy. I can see both sides of this. You are not the a-hole here though. She doesn't get to decide what other people do with their money. Your daughter already inherited her amount. She can't also collect money for kids that she doesn't have for herself. I feel like you are doing the right thing, and if she loves family more than money, she will understand this in the future. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. She has zero power over how you split your inheritance. Seems like you're trying to split it equally based on how your parents have done, which makes you kind of a nice person, not making your decision based on how much you like a certain child. It's her decision not to have children. She's already been granted a privileged start of life and she needs the money less than your grandchildren. She's the a-hole for trying to take what you want to give to someone else. Not the a-hole, and there is no logic in her request. There are 2 inheritance you get, one trust fund as a grandchild and personal belongings and small amounts of money as a child. Her wanting another trust fund is greedy, against the family tradition and unfair to her siblings. As others have pointed out, the trust fund would be her kids, and she would not have access to the money. And for her to see money her hypothetical kids would get as her own shows what kind of mother she would have been. Keep holding on to your tradition. Not the a-hole. She got her inheritance from her grandmother. She and her brother are getting very little directly from you, just as you got very little from your parents. This is how you and previous generations have decided to handle inheritance. She feels like she's being ripped off as she sees her brother's family unit getting money while she does not. Where her error in judgment comes from is she would be getting nothing even if she had 5 kids. Her family unit, kids would. I can see her point even if her point is greedy and self-serving. Inheritance isn't demanded or an entitlement. This is how you have decided to do or continue things. And she already got hers and is now trying to double dip. Story 3. I will try to be quick. My fiancé and I have been staying with my sister temporarily while our addition is being built. It's a fairly large addition, so it's taking some time, but shouldn't be any longer than a few more weeks. We have been crashing on my sister's large sectional in the living room. We pay for the food in the house. That's all my sister wanted from us. Hotels or Airbnbs aren't an option. Due to the season, you're looking at $200 plus a night. Well, we just found out 2 weeks ago that my wife is pregnant. She's 18 weeks. She had no symptoms and was still menstruating. It's a lot to process, considering we were told she couldn't have kids. My wife isn't taking it too well, fear mostly, especially because we are sleeping on the couch and there's zero privacy. I mean, these guys wake up at 6 a.m. and bring their dogs downstairs, and they jump all over us, and then we essentially get kicked out of the living room, so my wife isn't sleeping very well, if at all. Well, yesterday my wife had an absolute meltdown because she is effing tired of the dogs, all of them. One of the dogs even goes so near her and she is pissed because the dogs here have no boundaries and she's tired of being touched and followed. So I was like, well, why don't you take off for the day and go get a hotel for the night so you can sleep? She does what I suggest. About an hour later, I got a call from my sister saying, I never effing agreed to watch your dog, so you need to come get her. I guess I just assumed my wife would have taken the dog with her until I got out of work, and then we would switch off or something, and I would take the dog when I was out of work. So I call and say, hey, my sister wants you to go get the dog and I will just grab her after I'm out of work. She immediately got pissed. So much for me getting an effing break from the animals, huh? Pretty useless suggestion if you expected me to take your dog with me. I'm going to my mom's for the foreseeable future. She hangs up and won't answer my calls. Am I the a-hole? Edit. To clear up confusion, my sister has 3 dogs, and then my wife and I have 1 dog. Our dog is a bit of a follower, so her behaviors have sucked since being at my sister's. Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. I thought the point was for your wife to get some rest. LOL. Why would she take the very thing that is stopping her from getting rest with her? You dropped the ball on this one. You should have planned to keep the dog with you so she can have the moment for herself. Make nice with your pregnant wife and apologize and just explain your confusion. And hopefully you guys can brush this under the rug. Everyone sucks here. You and your wife are staying somewhere totally for free. If she wanted to have privacy and not to deal with your sister's animals, she probably shouldn't have agreed to this arrangement. But she's pregnant, and pregnancy hormones suck. And your sister had a really strong reaction for it just being a few hours, and you had been living there all this time. I bet it's wearing on her too, and you need to step up. You should not have assumed. This dog is your responsibility too, and it shouldn't be unlearning all of its good habits. And you need to be a more gracious guest and husband. It was one day and you told her she could get away. You're the a-hole. You said, why don't you take off for the day and go get a hotel for the night? That statement to me means, let me take care of things so you can get a break from the dogs. So she rightly assumed that you would run it by your sister, that the dog would be in the house alone or make alternate arrangements. You offered her a break she desperately needed, but didn't actually think through the logistics of making it happen. Like, how would taking off for the day help a damn thing if she had to take the dog with her? Going to her mom's for the foreseeable future seems like a good solution. She needs a bed and some peace for the sake of her physical and mental health. This situation is not tenable, and you need to do more to make it so.